Listen carefully. Do you realize that money has ears? It listens to your complaints, your fear, your doubt, and obeys every word. When I stopped talking about lack and started commanding abundance, the whole universe rearranged itself. The same law will work for you. This is not imagination. It is law. The spoken word is your wand. And until you learn how to use it, you will chase what could be commanded. In this message, I will teach you the real secret of wealth. Not how to earn it, but how to align with it. You will learn how to use your words as commands instead of cries. How to clear the inner vibration that repels money. And how to call your supply from the invisible into form. You have been trained to chase what should come to you. You've been told to budget, to sacrifice, to wait. But divine law says, ask and it shall be given you, not with anxiety, but with authority. This is the difference between toil and demonstration. Perhaps you've tried affirmations before. You've written them on mirrors, whispered them before sleep, and yet nothing changed. You spoke the words, but not the vibration. You see, words without faith are like shells without life. The power lies not in the sound, but in the conviction behind it. 2. Once lived in fear of bills and scarcity. I know the weight of dread that settles when the rent is due. But I also know the day it lifted the very moment I spoke. God is my unfailing supply and large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways. From that day I never spoke lack again. You may think this sounds impossible, but what if impossibility is only a lie you have repeated to yourself? Today we will break that lie. In this teaching I will reveal how to form a living relationship with money, not as a cruel master but as a loyal servant. You will learn the 3 great secrets of the spoken word. How to speak with faith, how to erase fear, and how to command abundance as your divine right. We will begin with the law of vibration, the truth that money is consciousness, not coin. Then I will show you how to cleanse the words that have changed your supply and replace them with declarations of power. Before this lesson ends, I will give you the very affirmations that turned my life from poverty to plenty. Words that have never failed, one who spoke them in faith. Stay with me to the end, for I will open to you what I call the secret door to supply. The moment when heaven and earth agree and your word becomes visible substance. Most people think money is deaf. They believe it only listens to effort, strategy, or struggle. But I tell you, money listens to tone, to faith, to fear, to reverence. The invisible law of vibration governs every coin, every dollar, every flow of substance on earth. The world calls it economy. I call it divine order. You see, what you think of as income or expenses is only the shadow of your inner speech. The real conversation is happening in secret between your heart and the invisible realm that supplies you. That's the part most people completely overlook. They think money comes through people, but it never does. People are channels, not sources. The real source is spirit, and spirit takes orders only from your words. So if you've been asking, why does money slip away from me? I'll tell you, because you've been talking to it as an enemy instead of greeting it as a friend. When I was still learning this law, I would look at a bill and sigh, another expense. Every sigh was a command. Every complaint was a seed of lack. And the law, being perfect, obeyed me perfectly. The more I groaned, the more bills came. But one day I changed the conversation. I took the next envelope that arrived, held it in my hand and said, "You are proof that I am trusted with supply. I bless you in the hands that sent you." Within weeks, the stream of bills turned into letters of payment and gifts. That was the day I discovered money moves toward blessing and away from complaint. This may sound simple, almost too simple to believe, but divine law is always simple. You don't need to chase prosperity. You need to learn its language. And that language is gratitude spoken aloud. Every time you bless what you have, you send out a vibration that calls its kin more money, more opportunities, more flow. The same way a mother calls her child home, your words call abundance home. So if you want to know the first secret of talking to money, here it is. Speak to it as if it already loves you. Say, "Money, you are God in action. You bless me as I bless you." Feel that warmth move through your body as you say it. That is faith in motion. That is the law in operation. Now, this may sound counterintuitive. You might say, "But I have so little. How can I bless what I barely have?" That's exactly where the miracle begins. Because what you bless increases. The woman I once taught who had only 80 learned this truth. She blessed those 8, declaring, "This is God's living substance. It multiplies in perfect ways." She went home, followed a quiet intuition, and within days received thousands. It wasn't luck. It was obedience to the vibration of gratitude. Here's what I want you to remember. Money does not follow effort. It follows alignment. The more peace you feel toward it, the closer it draws. The more fear you project, the further it hides. You could work 10 hours a day and still repel it if your words oppose your desire. Or you could stand still, speak your truth once in faith, and open a floodgate of supply. So ask yourself, how have I been speaking to money? Do I greet it with reverence, or do I meet it with worry? Do I bless it as a guest or chase it like a fugitive? Because your answer will tell you exactly why your finances behave the way they do. When you change the conversation, everything changes. You no longer talk about what you lack. You talk to what you love, and love always answers. That's the foundation we build upon. In a moment, I'll show you why this spoken vibration is the real currency of the universe. The reason words create wealth faster than work. But first, breathe in this truth. Money is not a number. It's a relationship. Speak kindly, and it will never leave you again. When I first began to understand the sacred law of vibration, I realized that every word a person speaks is a note in the great symphony of their life. And the tone of that note determines whether the music around them plays in harmony or discord. Money, being part of that symphony, always responds to the conductor. And the conductor is the spoken word. You may think of money as coins and paper, but I assure you it is a living rhythm of divine energy, a pulse that responds faithfully to your inner command. When you speak in fear, that rhythm slows and constricts. When you speak in faith, it expands and flows with ease. Every thought, every utterance, every sigh or complaint is an instruction to the unseen. And the unseen is always obedient. So the moment you say, "I can't afford this," the invisible substance folds its arms and replies, "As you wish." But when you declare, "Everything I need now comes to me in perfect ways," the same power stirs itself and rushes forward to fulfill your decree. That's the strange and beautiful paradox the universe never argues. It simply echoes. Whatever word you give, it magnifies. That is why idle speech is dangerous and careless talk costly. For nothing spoken is ever lost. It is only stored until it bears fruit. I learned to measure every phrase as one might measure gold. Each word I released had to carry the vibration of what I truly wished to experience, not the shadow of fear that I wished to escape. And this is where most people stumble. For they think that their outer labor will save them, when in truth, their inner conversation shapes every harvest. The farmer who plants thorn seeds cannot reap wheat, and the soul that plants words of worry cannot harvest wealth. It is the law. There are no exceptions. I remember a young artist who came to me worn and disheartened. She said, "I work harder than anyone I know, yet I can barely keep my rent." I looked at her and asked, "What do you say about your work?" She hesitated, then laughed bitterly. "I'm always saying it doesn't pay." I smiled, for she had just spoken her own decree. I told her, "You have built a wall of words around your supply. Tear it down." Together we formed a new command. My work brings me joy, recognition, and great reward. My income now expands under grace. She repeated it every morning, not with strain, but with expectancy. Within a month, she received a commission larger than any she had ever dreamed. The law responded the moment she spoke truth in place of complaint. This is what I call spiritual precision, to speak only what you wish to see. And it takes practice, for the world around you will constantly tempt you to speak against your good. The appearance of lack shouts, "Admit me." The noise of fear insists, "Name me." But your task is to stay loyal to invisible, not the visible. When the outer world contradicts your vision, you must speak your word as a sovereign, not as a subject. The wind may howl, the bills may arrive, but you stand and say, "Infinite Spirit, you are my unfailing supply. Every need is met now." You say it not once, but until the peace within you feels as real as the paper in your hand. That peace is the proof that the decree has taken root. You see, the power is not in repeating words like charms, but in entering the feeling of truth behind them. The vibration of conviction moves mountains. The sound of worry only stirs dust. So when you bless your money, bless it with the certainty that you are blessing God's own energy and therefore it cannot diminish. When you pay a bill, do not think of money leaving you, but of love circulating through you. Say quietly, "This payment returns to me multiplied." For truly nothing leaves your life except by your consent. Everything that goes out in love must return in abundance. Now I know the mind often resists such simplicity. It says, "But what about logic? What about effort? What about planning?" I tell you this, your plans are nothing until they are aligned with divine speech. You may work without end, but if you speak against yourself, you dig holes faster than you can fill them. Yet a single word of faith can level every mountain of resistance. Remember the story of the woman with the 8. She had nothing by the world's measure. Yet she had the one thing that cannot be bought: trust in the law. She blessed her money and followed her intuition home. And from that obedience came her miracle. The law never fails. Only disbelief interrupts it. So the first step is awareness. Listen to your own language for a single day. Notice how often you curse your supply without realizing it. Each time you say "too expensive," you are saying "I am small." Each time you say "I'll never have enough," you declare the universe is limited. Catch these words and immediately, as one would pluck weeds before they spread. Replace them with truth. There is always enough and more to spare. Speak it aloud, for the spoken word carries vibration that thought alone cannot. The tongue, when sanctified by faith, is the scepter of dominion. And here lies the wonder. Once you begin to speak rightly, not only does money respond, but every area of life begins to align. Relationships soften, health improves, intuition awakens. For the law is one. The word that commands wealth also commands harmony, because both are expressions of the same divine. This is why I say, talk to money as you would to love, as you would to health, as you would to God. For they are one spirit seen in different forms. The tone of your word reveals what you believe about life itself. If you speak with fear, you believe in separation. If you speak with faith, you know oneness in life always mirrors what you know. So I ask you, what story are you telling the universe today? Are you speaking from the poverty of appearances or from the richness of divine truth? Each word is a seed, each emotion, the water that nourishes it. The harvest will not fail you. It will only reveal your faith. If your current harvest displeases you, do not curse it. Simply plant again with better words. Speak plenty. Bless freely. Trust completely, for as surely as the sun rises, The universe obeys the voice that knows its authority. In the next part, we will go even deeper into this mystery. How the word itself carries divine substance, and how your every decree shapes not only your wealth, but your entire destiny. But for now, let this truth settle in your heart. The moment you bless what you have, you are already rich. There is a point in every soul's journey where words cease to be idle sound and become instruments of power. And that point is reached when one understands that the word is not merely spoken through the lips, but through the very vibration of being. When I say your word is your wand, I mean that every tone that leaves your body carries the creative life of God within it, forming images in the invisible that must later appear in the visible. Most people think their lives are shaped by action, but it is their words that move the unseen machinery of circumstance. Actions are only the afterglow of speech. Everything begins as sound. Everything begins as declaration. The world itself was spoken into existence. Let there be light. And that decree still echoes through all creation. Each of us made in the take of lightness of that creative spirit possesses the same authority on the scale of our own affairs. When we say I am, we ignite the same spark that formed galaxies. And when we misuse those words, we bend that spark against ourselves. The simple phrases, I am broke, I am tired, I am unlucky, are not harmless complaints. They are blueprints sent forth into the ether to summon their likeness back to us. And just as surely, when we declare, I am supplied, I am renew, I am blessed, the living substance rushes to fulfill that pattern. It is not imagination, it is law. Your word is seed. The mind is soil. The emotion with which you speak is the sunlight that warms it. The harvest cannot fail. It can only mirror your cultivation. The difficulty for most is that they plant and uproot at once. They make an affirmation and then dig it up with a contradiction. They say, I am prosperous. And an hour later sigh, I never have enough. They water the soil with faith in the morning and pour poison over it with fear at night. And then they wonder why nothing grows. Yet the law never changes. It does not punish. It simply produces according to design. A garden cannot yield roses when the gardener scatters thorns. So the first step toward mastery of the spoken word is consistency. To watch the gates of the tongue, as a shepherd watches the fold at night, allowing no thought of limitation to escape unchallenged. I remember a woman who came to me weeping over the ruin of her finances. Everything I touch fails, she cried. I have prayed. I have worked. But the harder I try, the worse it gets. I asked her what she said when she paid her bills. She looked at me blankly and answered, I always say, I can't keep up. There was her decree. I told her to bless every account that came before her eyes, to say, divine order governs my finances. Large sums of money come quickly and easily under grace. She hesitated, for she feared that to speak such words while her purse was empty was a lie. I told her it is never a lie to speak truth. It is only a lie to speak fear. She followed my instruction faithfully, though at first her voice trembled. She would lay each bill on her table, toss it lightly, and say her word with as much peace as she could muster. In less than a month, a forgotten inheritance appeared. An old investment her family believed worthless was suddenly redeemed, covering all her debts and more. The law responded to her spoken command, for it always does. When you speak truth in the face of appearances, you are not pretending. You are exercising dominion. The outer world is slow clay, but the inner word is the mold. Speak firmly, and the clay must yield. This is the reason that miracles often appear at the moment of greatest contradiction. When all visible help is gone, the invisible must step forth. The seed of the word often germinates in dark, when reason can no longer interfere. So when you stand in lack, do not tremble. Speak. say, Infinite Spirit, you are my unfailing supply. When you feel fear, do not retreat. Speak. Say, there is no power to hurt. When confusion surrounds you, do not run. Speak. Say, divine intelligence now reveals the perfect path. These are not empty phrases. They are keys that unlock the door between the seen and the unseen. Each word of faith is a ray of light that pierces the dense fog of doubt until the way is clear. There is a rhythm to speech that mirrors the rhythm of creation. The heart beats, the lungs expand and contract, the tide rises and falls, and every affirmation must move with that same pulse. Calm, certain, measured. You cannot shout truth into being through strain. You must breathe it into being through assurance. I have seen people cry their affirmations through clenched teeth and wonder why nothing changes. I tell them, be still, speak softly. The law hears no volume, only vibration. A whisper of faith contains more power than a shout of fear. When you say your word, let it roll from you like a wave of light, steady and unhindered. Feel it move beyond the boundaries of the body, touching the great substance that fills all space. That substance is sensitive to every tone. It knows the difference between anxiety and authority, between hope and certainty. Speak as one who knows the outcome, not as one pleading for it. Speak as one who commands, not as one who begs. The universe will obey the one who knows his position. And remember this, no word is lost. Every sound you have ever spoken exists still in vibration. You may neutralize the old by declaring the new, but you cannot erase the power of speech itself. That is why forgiveness and reversal are essential. When you realize that you have cursed your own supply through careless talk, do not despair. Simply reverse it at once. Say, I now dissolve and erase every false word spoken in ignorance or fear. I am free from the past. I speak only words of life, love and prosperity. The moment you do this, the law changes direction, for it holds no resentment. It is impersonal, mechanical, exact. It gives to every man according to his faith and his declaration. I sometimes liken it to a photograph record. As I once wrote, every word you speak is etched upon the wax of the subconscious to be played again and again, until a new record is made. So if you would change the music of your life, break the old record and sing a new song. Speak daily. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Say it aloud until you feel the resonance of it vibrating in your chest, until it ceases to be a phrase and becomes a living rhythm within you. Then watch how swiftly the outer events rearrange themselves to match the new melody. When I discovered this, it transformed every corner of my existence. The struggles that once seemed immovable melted before the heat of conviction. Opportunities I could not have planned arrived in divine sequence. People I had never met came forward to fulfill parts of my good. It was as though invisible hands were always at work, rearranging the tapestry of life according to the thread of my word. And truly, that is exactly what occurs. There are unseen forces waiting for your instruction. They are never idle. They only await your decree. When you remain silent or speak doubt, they stand still. When you speak faith, they move mountains. So now take a moment and think of the situation that weighs upon you most. Perhaps it is money, perhaps health, perhaps love. Do not describe it as it appears. Describe it as it is in truth. Say softly, this too is good. This too is God. This too is for my blessing. Feel the peace of that statement settling over you like morning light. You have just turned the key in the invisible lock. From this moment, all things begin to align with that word. And if you keep it steady, refusing to contradict it, the manifestation will come as surely as dawn follows night. In the next movement of this teaching, I will reveal how to use this divine speech with precision, How to let intuition aim your words so that every decree hits its mark. How to recognize the quiet voice within that says, "This is the way. Walk ye in it." But before we step there, remember this one unshakable truth. The world is not responding to your circumstances. It is responding to your words about them. Change your word and the world must obey. There comes a moment in every seeker's awakening when they realize that the outer world is nothing but an echo chamber, a mirror that throws back to them every tone they send forth. It may take years of struggle before that truth dawns clearly. But once it does, all striving becomes simple. You begin to understand that you were never fighting conditions, only reflections of your own vibration. The battle was never with the world. It was always with your word. And when that battle ends, when the tongue is brought under divine discipline, you stand as a master of cause instead of a victim of effect. You speak and the world answers. You declare peace and chaos folds its wings. You call for supply and it hurries to meet you. You bless love and love circles you like sunlight. The law is so simple that minds trained in complexity trip over it again and again. But truth waits patiently until the heart is ready to accept ease instead of struggle. I learned this through countless small demonstrations, each one a quiet miracle. I remember once when I stood in the middle of winter, with only a few coins to my name. The wind was sharp, and the shops glittered with things beyond my means. For a moment I felt the old tug of fear, that familiar ache of separation between desire and possession. But then, as swiftly as a flame catches, a word rose within me. There is no separation in divine mind. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me under grace. I whispered it to the icy air as if speaking to a beloved friend, and instantly the chill seemed to soften. I walked without hurry, repeating it softly, rhythmically, until my heart was steady. That very afternoon, a letter arrived. An old client had remembered a debt and enclosed payment far beyond what was owed. That is the mysterious swiftness of divine law. It rushes to fill any space faith has cleared. Now you may say that sounds too effortless. And yes, it is effortless because the true work is inward alignment, not outer labor. The human mind has been trained to measure everything by toil, to believe that struggle is holy and ease is suspect. Yet every blade of grass grows without strain. Every planet moves in perfect rhythm. Every breath of air enters and leaves your body without your command. The whole universe is effortless order. Only man resists that flow with words of fear. He shuts the gate with phrases like impossible, too late, too hard. And then he wonders why the garden within him withers. But the moment he changes his speech, the flow resumes. One right word spoken in faith can dissolve a lifetime of resistance. So, how do we begin to speak rightly? It starts with watching ourselves gently, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Listen to your inner conversation as if it were a radio playing in another room. What tone fills the air? Is it gratitude or complaint? Certainty or confusion? You will soon discover that the world outside you has been faithfully repeating those same tones all along. If you hear fear, begin to whisper peace. If you hear resentment, whisper forgiveness. If you hear lack, whisper abundance. It may feel awkward at first, like changing the key of a familiar song, but the moment you persist, the melody of life adjusts. Do not wait to feel ready. Speak before you feel, and feeling will follow speech, for words lead emotion, as surely as emotion colors words. One of the most radiant truths I have ever known is that emotion is the magnet, but speech is the conductor. You may feel deep longing, but unless a given voice, it remains unformed energy. The moment you speak, you give it direction. That is why silent fear furs. It has no outlet, but imagination, and spoken faith liberates, for it calls the invisible into definite shape. The difference between those who live in perpetual frustration and those who live in demonstration is simply this. The first speak according to appearances. The second speak according to truth. The one says, I am afraid this will fail. The other says, divine order now governs this. The law hears both and fulfills both. There was once a merchant who attended my lectures, a man accustomed to the sharp corners of business. He came to me in despair, saying that every investment seemed to crumble. It's as if fortune avoids me, he said. I listened and then asked, what do you say about your affairs when you are alone? He thought for a moment and answered, I often say, everything I touch turns to trouble. I smiled and replied, and so the law has faithfully served you. Let us give it new orders. I told him to repeat, everything I touch prospers and blesses everyone involved. He began hesitantly, for he could not yet believe it. But he continued, morning and night until the phrase felt natural. Within weeks, 2 old contracts revived and yielded profit. He came to me astonished. I said, do not be astonished. Be consistent. From that day, he guarded his tongue as carefully as he guarded his ledgers, and his life unfolded in peace. You see, the law of speech does not discriminate between the good and the bad, the rich and the poor, the believer and the skeptic. It only amplifies what it is given. A fire will warm or burn depending on how you tend it. Likewise, the word will heal or harm according to its tone. This is why I always urge, let no idle word pass your lips. Speak only that which you wish to see established. If you must correct a situation, do it by declaring the opposite of its error. Say not, I am ill, but divine life fills every cell of my body. Say not, I am alone, but divine love surrounds me and attracts my own. Say not, I am afraid, but I walk in courage, for God before me. These words are not wishes, they are decrees, and decrees move worlds. Now, there is a subtle mystery in this. For sometimes the moment you begin to speak truth, conditions seem to worsen. People often come to me alarmed saying, I started affirming prosperity, and suddenly my purse emptied. I tell them, rejoice. The law is working. For when light enters a room, it first reveals the dust. When truth enters consciousness, it exposes every hidden fear that must be cleared away. This is what I call the testing period, the seeming storm before the calm. Do not retreat. Hold to your word. Speak it again and again, not to convince the universe, but to remind yourself of its certainty. Soon the wind dies and peace takes its rightful place. And when that peace comes, you will find yourself laughing at the very things that once troubled you. You will see how the power you sought was always in your own speech. You will understand that prayer is not begging, but commanding. That faith is not hoping but knowing. That abundance is not earned but spoken into visibility. Then you will no longer chase money, for you will have become its magnet. You will bless every coin that passes through your hands, and each will return to you multiplied, as surely as ripples circle back to the shore. So take this as your practice until we meet again in the next lesson. Begin and end each day with words of dominion. In the morning say, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my supply. Let every door that belongs to me by divine right swing wide. At night say, all that is mine comes to me in peace, in order, in abundance. Let no complaint escape your lips, not even in jest. Laugh with joy, not with mockery. Speak softly to money as to an old and loyal friend. You are welcome here. You serve the purpose of good. And as these words take root, watch how swiftly the outer world rearranges itself to obey. For it will obey. It must obey. It has no choice. For the word is law and you are its voice. In the next part, I will open to you another chamber of this mystery. How intuition, that quiet inner whisper, guides every word to its appointed target. How faith and timing walk hand in hand. And how obedience to that still small voice turns every spoken decree into living demonstration. But for now, rest in this understanding. Your life already hears you. It has always heard you. It is only waiting for you to speak with love, with certainty, and with praise. When the soul finally learns to trust the sound of its own divine authority, a new rhythm begins to unfold. The quiet cadence of effortless manifestation. It feels almost unreal at first, because the human mind has been trained from childhood to believe that everything valuable must come through exhaustion and strain, through constant striving and ceaseless effort, as if heaven itself were a measure who must be convinced to part with its treasures. But the truth is far gentler and far more daring. Heaven does not need convincing. It needs cooperation. The law of supply is not a gatekeeper but a mirror. And the moment your speech reflects trust instead of tension, that mirror floods you with abundance. It is not effort but alignment that opens the way. It is not labor but vibration. It is not begging but declaring. And you will notice that as you speak more softly and more truthfully, the entire atmosphere of your life begins to change. Even the air around you seems to hum with quiet expectancy. For the word has gone forth, and the universe bends itself to carry it out. I have often told my students that manifestation is not a race to be won, but a song to be remembered. You have sung this song before every soul has, but most have forgotten the melody under the noise of fear. Each declaration of truth is simply a note that brings you back into tune with the divine orchestra already playing on your behalf. The law of vibration does not need to be invented, only recalled. The way is already prepared, but you must walk it by the tone of your words. That tone is everything. You can whisper your desire in despair and move nothing, or speak at once in radiant conviction, and move the mountains that have shadowed you for years. The universe does not respond to syllables. It responds to certainty. Once a man came to me in deep despondency. He had read my words, repeated my affirmations, and yet nothing changed. He said, I say the words, but they feel empty. I speak and the silence just echoes back. I asked him, what do you expect to happen when you speak? He hesitated and then confessed, I suppose I expect nothing. And there it was. The emptiness was not in the words, but in the expectation behind them. You see, every declaration must be clothed in feeling in the invisible garment of belief. The law of supply cannot fill an empty expectation. It can only fill a living one. I told him to speak again, but this time to imagine that his words were golden birds, carrying his desire into the heavens, returning with gifts in their wings. He smiled faintly, but he tried it. And within a fortnight, opportunity knocked in a form he could never have planned. His astonishment was not in the blessing itself, but in how easily it came once he felt the reality of it as he spoke. So I say to you, when you speak, do not parrot truth, embody it. Do not utter words like cold incantations, but breathe them as living forces. Every sentence must carry the warmth of conviction. Every phrase must glide upon the current of joy. The law hears joy more clearly than it hears pain, because joy is the native tongue of heaven. That is why gratitude multiplies. It is the sound of joy in motion. If you want to speed your good, wrap your words in thanksgiving before you send them forth. Say, I thank you, Infinite Spirit, that my good now appears. Do not wait to see it before you thank it. Gratitude is not a response. It is a magnet. It draws into the visible what already exists in the invisible. There is a certain sacred boldness required to live this way. It means you must trust what you cannot yet touch, speak to what you cannot yet see, and rejoice in what you cannot yet hold. The world will call it madness, but the law will call it mastery. Every miracle that has ever taken place began with someone daring to speak a truth the senses could not confirm. Faith speaks first. sight follows. This is why I say that the unseen world is more obedient than the seen. The invisible listens before the visible reacts. So train your inner language to speak only of fulfillment. Let the outer evidence lag behind if it must, for it cannot remain unchanged once the word is established. The invisible leads, the visible follows, and the bridge between them is your unwavering decree. I once met a young woman who desperately wanted to change her circumstances. She lived in a small, dim apartment and often told me how it suffocated her spirit. "I dream of sunlight in space," she said, "but it seems so far away." I asked her what she said to herself each morning. She replied, "I wake up and say, 'Another gray day.'" I smiled gently, for she was only describing what she was commanding. "Begin tomorrow differently," I told her. "Before your eyes even open, speak this. I awaken in the light of divine abundance. Every day is bright with blessing." She agreed, though she did not quite believe it. Still, she obeyed. Within weeks, her landlord offered to move her into a sunnier apartment at no extra rent. She came to me laughing through tears, saying, "It feels like the building moved around me." I told her, "No, dear. Your word moved the world. That is the silent miracle of right speech. It reorders the unseen structure of life until the outer world matches the inner decree. You do not push the world into obedience. You invite it. You do not force events to change. You speak the pattern that makes change inevitable. The moment you understand that, the struggle ends. You no longer chase opportunity. You declare alignment. You no longer compete for resources you call your own. You no longer live as a beggar at the gates of chance. You stand as a rightful heir in the kingdom of divine supply. And from that posture, everything that belongs to you begins to find you without strain, without effort, without delay. The greatest challenge is to remain faithful when appearances contradict your word. That is the test of mastery, and it will come to every student of truth. The moment you affirm abundance, something in the outer world will rise to say, "Prove it." That is the echo, not the enemy. When it comes, do not fight it. Stand still and speak again. Say, "This too shall pass. Only good is real." The law will then sweep aside every shadow. For shadows cannot stand before the light of faith. Remember this whenever you are tempted to doubt. The words spoken in love can never return void. It may circle the earth. It may pass through delays and detours, but it will come back fulfilled. So as you go about your day, speak as though every atom were listening, because it is. Speak as though your walls could hear, because they do. Speak as though the air itself were pregnant with your good, because it is. Let no murmur of complaint escape your lips. No whisper of fear, no jest of limitation. You are creating every moment, and every creation begins with a word. Speak peace until peace surrounds you. Speak plenty until plenty overflows you. Speak love until love becomes the atmosphere you breathe. And when you forget, forgive yourself instantly and begin again. The law never holds grudges. It simply waits for your next command. In the chapters that follow, we will enter the next dimension of this mystery. The power of divine guidance. That inner whisper which tells you where, when, and how your spoken word shall manifest. For the word must be directed as well as declared. It must be aimed by intuition. But before we move there, let this understanding settle deeply in your spirit. You are never waiting for abundance. Abundance is waiting for your instruction. Speak clearly. Speak kindly. Speak as one who knows, and the universe will obey the tone of your certainty. When the heart finally accepts that the universe is not an opponent but a servant, that life is not a maze of problems, but a field waiting for the command of divine intelligence, something miraculous begins to happen inside the consciousness. The tension that once filled the chest loosens, the breath lengthens, the gaze softens, and you feel the great invisible machinery of the universe turning quietly in your favor. You start to see that there was never any struggle at all except in thought that heaven was always saying yes, while you were busy arguing with your own good. That is the sacred turning point. It is the moment when you stop pleading and start proclaiming. When you stop asking for light and realize that you are light. In that instant, the word spoken from your lips carries a force you never imagined before. Because it is not the small voice of fear that speaks, but the great voice of God through you. Calm and absolute. You no longer hope your affirmations will work. You know they must, for the law of expression is as sure as the law of gravity. The seed planted in faith must grow. The decree issued in divine certainty must stand. It is here that the practice of gratitude transforms from polite habit into holy science. Gratitude is not merely saying thank you. It is recognition of the living order of things. It is the acknowledgement that the universe has already granted your request in the moment you aligned with it. I learned that when you give thanks before you see the result, you are not pretending, you are participating in creation itself. The grateful word is between the unseen and the seen. When you say, I thank you, Father, that my good now appears, you are not waiting on events. You are summoning them. Gratitude, when spoken in faith, accelerates the rhythm of manifestation, for it removes the vibration of need and replaces it with the vibration of fulfillment. Need says I lack. Gratitude says I have, and the universe, ever obedient, echoes the vibration it receives. I often tell my students to begin every declaration with thanksgiving. For thanksgiving is the stamp of ownership. The moment you give thanks, you have claimed the thing is yours. Do not wait to see the evidence. The farmer does not thank the soil after the harvest. He thanks it when he plants. Likewise, thank the universe when you speak your word, and your harvest will come swiftly. I once counseled a man whose business had nearly failed. Every day he woke with worry in his mouth and went to bed with despair in his heart. I told him, reverse it. Begin to thank God for perfect success before you leave your bed each morning. He frowned, saying, but there is no success to thank for. I replied, then that is why you have none. The law can only echo the vibration you send. He began awkwardly at first to give thanks aloud. I thank you, infinite intelligence, that my business now prospers and blesses everyone it touches. Within a month, contracts that had been dormant reawakened, clients returned, and he came to me astonished. It's as though my words pushed open a hidden door. I smiled and said, they did. Gratitude was the key. As you continue this practice, you will find gratitude becoming the natural language of your being. You will wake with it, walk with it, and speak it without thought. Even in moments that seem dark, you will feel an inner whisper saying, this too is good. This too is God. This too is for my blessing. That single phrase, when spoken sincerely, will dissolve mountains of anxiety. It reminds the mind that every event carries a gift wrapped in disguise. The world may label something a loss, but the spirit knows only transformation. When you affirm that truth, even apparent failures begin to serve you. What was taken returns tenfold. What was blocked clears in unexpected ways. You are never punished by the law. You are only taught by it. And when you meet that teaching with gratitude, the lesson ends and the blessing begins. Now this is where intuition begins to whisk its guidance, for the grateful heart becomes a finely tuned instrument. It hears what the anxious heart cannot. Fear shouts so loudly that it drowns out the still small voice of divine direction. But gratitude quiets the storm. And in that calm you will bear distinct instructions. Go here. Call this person. Wait now. Move forward. These are not accidents of thought. They are the clear tones of the Spirit directing your path. The same law that governs words governs guidance. As you trust and act upon these inner prompts, life unfolds with a precision that no human planning could rival. Let me tell you of a woman who once sought my help, a teacher of music who feared she would lose her position. Her school had announced budget cuts, and she was sure her name would be on the list. I said to her, "Do not speak of loss, speak of divine adjustment. Say there is no loss in divine mind. I am in my right place and my right place is secure." She repeated it faithfully. 2 weeks later, the cuts came, but instead of being dismissed, she was promoted to director of the entire music department. Her fear had spoken one story, but her word had writ another, and the law read her word. You see, divine law is deaf to anxiety and alert only to authority. It hears not what you dread but what you decree. And so it is with every area of your life. Speak not of what you see, but of what you know. Speak not from the surface of things, but from the depth of truth. When lack appears, say, "This is only a shadow. My supply is limitless." When sickness threatens, say, "This too is illusion. Divine life flows through me now." When loneliness whispers, say, "Love fills me and surrounds me. I am never alone." And when fear tries to tighten its grip, say, "There is no power to hurt. God is my shield and my song." These words are not just comfort. They are command. They send forth invisible messengers to rearrange the outer world in perfect alignment with divine order. There will come a day when these declarations no longer feel like practice, but like breathing. When you will look around and realize that the world has become gentle toward you, that doors open before you without knocking, that the right people and opportunities arrive without striving. That day is not far off. For every word you have spoken in faith is already building that reality around you. The results may appear gradually or suddenly, but appear they must. For that is the promise of the law. My word shall not return unto me void. So I say to you now, keep speaking the language of blessing. Speak to your money with affection, to your body with kindness, to your future with certainty. Speak as one who knows that the divine listens through every atom. And when doubt arises, speak again. When fear whispers, speak louder, not in volume, but in conviction. You are not trying to convince the universe. You are reminding yourself of its faithfulness. For the law of the word is the law of life itself. And once you know that, nothing can stand against you. In our next step together, we will follow that inner current into the realm of intuition, the magic path that reveals the exact moments and means by which your decrees come to pass. But carry this truth with you as you go. The universe is already speaking your language. It is waiting only for you to speak it fluently. To live by the word is to enter into a quiet, luminous order where nothing happens by chance, and everything answers to harmony. It is as if you have found the rhythm that underlies all creation, the heartbeat of God that pulses beneath every appearance of chaos. And once you fall into step with that rhythm, life begins to flow like a well-conducted orchestra. There are no dissonant notes, no wasted movements, only the music of divine precision unfolding moment by moment. The mind, which once doubted and demanded explanations, becomes still and listens. You start to feel that every step you take is timed, that every encounter is guided, that every delay is secretly a doorway, rearranging itself in your favor. This awareness is not forced. It dawns gently like light spreading through a room at sunrise. It is the natural result of sustained faith, of speaking truth long enough for it to become your native language. You no longer translate between fear and belief. You simply live in knowing. And yet to the world around you, it may appear as though miracles are happening everywhere. You speak and events shift. You release and resistance dissolves. You expect and provision arrives. They call it luck or coincidence, but you know it is law. You have touched the living current of divine speech, and everything responds to its tone. You begin to see that the same vibration, which calls forth wealth, also restores health, heals relationships, and clears confusion. It is all one principle, and that principle is alignment. The oneness of thought, word, and faith. When those three act as one, nothing is withheld. When they are divided, even simple things seem hard. But the moment they unite, the invisible moves as swiftly as lightning to fulfill the command. One day, a man came to me trembling with fear. His business had faltered, his health was failing, and he believed himself cursed by misfortune. He said, "I've tried to affirm, but it feels hollow. I say the words, but they don't stick." I listened and then asked quietly, "Do you believe the law favors you?" He lowered his head and whispered, "No, it feels like it's against me." Then I said, "You are arguing with the very power that would save you. The law is not against anyone. It only mirrors belief. The moment you stop accusing it and start trusting it, it will turn and serve you faithfully." I taught him to speak slowly, to let each word sink beyond the intellect into the heart. The law is my friend. The law works for me and through me. Divine order governs my affairs. He said it every other morning, not trying to force belief, but to invite peace. Within weeks, his health steadied, his business revived, and his fear dissolved into gratitude. The law had not changed, only his relationship to it had. There is a strange tenderness in realizing that the universe was never withholding anything from you. It was simply waiting for you to stop contradicting yourself. Every fearful thought cancels a faithful word, and every anxious repetition slows the current that would bring your good. That is why I urge you to speak your word once in absolute faith, then rest. Do not dig up the seed to check if it has sprouted. Do not ask when will it happen. For the law of divine timing is as perfect as the law of divine speech. Every decree has its appointed hour, and when the time is ripe, nothing can delay it. To worry after you have spoken is to declare that you do not trust the law that heard you. Speak once, think endlessly, and allow. The power of allowance is the secret gate to manifestation. Most people speak in command but live in contradiction. They say, "I have abundance," yet spend their days watching for proof, shrinking at every bill that arrives. That is not faith. That is fear disguised as vigilance. True faith does not stalk its desire. It rests in completion. When you speak, imagine the decree leaving you as a radiant wave that cannot fail to reach its mark. See it carried by legions of divine intelligence, each detail arranged beyond your knowledge. Then let go. Go about your day with peace, knowing that the universe never misplaces an order. You are not the delivery man. You are the sender. Your task is to state the address clearly and enjoy, not to chase the package through every street of circumstance. Sometimes I walk through the city and watch people hurry. Shoulders tight, eyes clouded, voices filled with tension. And I think they do not know the ease that belongs to them. They push and plead, unaware that the moment they cease resisting, the current will carry them farther than all their effort combined. The law of supply does not respond to strain. It responds to serenity. A calm declaration spoken in faith has more creative power than 1,000 anxious pleas. This is why Jesus said, "Your Father knoweth what things you have need of before ye ask him." You do not inform the infinite. You align with it. The asking is not for the divine to hear you, but for you to hear yourself speaking as divine. I once counseled a woman who longed for companionship. She said, "I have affirmed love for years, but nothing changes." "How do you affirm?" she said. "I keep saying I want love." I smiled, for there was the error. To say I want is to declare lack. The law ever obedient keeps her wanting. I told her to speak instead, "I am love. I radiate love, and love returns to me in perfect ways. She resisted at first, feeling it dishonest, but I reminded her that faith begins where evidence ends. Within 2 months, she met a man whose gentleness and depth surprised her, and they grew together in harmony. She wrote to me saying, "It feels as if he was waiting for me to change my words." And so he was. For everything that belongs to you, by divine right, is waiting for your recognition. Recognition is the highest form of prayer. It is seeing with the inner eye what the outer eye has not yet caught up to. When you recognize your abundance before it arrives, it must come. For you have already claimed in the only realm that matters, the invisible. The outer world has no choice but to follow. Every miracle begins as recognition. Recognition of health within the illness, of harmony within the discord, of fulfillment within the longing. Recognition is faith seeing through the veil of time. And every time you speak in recognition, you pierce that veil a little more until it falls away completely. Then the seen and the unseen merge and life becomes seamless. It is in this way that divine speech becomes divine living. The word you once repeated consciously becomes the silent hum of your being. You no longer need to remember to affirm, for everything you say is already affirmation. Every casual sentence carries the vibration of true. You say good morning, and it is a blessing that multiplies. You say thank you and doors open quietly. You say yes to life and life says yes to in 1,000 forms. This is the natural outcome of walking in harmony with the law. When people ask, "What is your secret?" you will smile because you will know there is none. Only this. I speak what I know, and I know that what I speak is real. So as you stand at the close of this teaching, remember that you are never apart from your word. It follows you, surrounds you, fills your path with its echo. Use it with reverence, for it is your creative instrument. Every phrase is a brush stroke on the canvas of your life. Paint with joy. Paint with trust. Paint with gratitude. If shadows appear, add more light. Do not curse the dark. If delays come, declare them divine timing. Do not call them misfortune. The painter who curses his own colors ruins the masterpiece. You are the artist of your reality, and the word is your palette. And now, as you move toward the next revelation, the law of intuition, the inner compass that directs every spoken word to its perfect destination, carry this truth like a lantern before you. You are the voice of God in your own world, and your world is always listening. When I speak of intuition, I speak of that quiet undercurrent that has always been there. Long before we learned the language of fear, long before the noise of the world taught us to doubt our own divine compass. It is the secret vibration beneath thought, the still small whisper that guides without argument and directs without struggle. Most people mistake intuition for impulse or confuse it with emotion. But true intuition is not stirred by passing feelings. It is the calm, unwavering knowing that sits behind the heart. It does not shout. It simply is. And once you learn to listen to it, you realize that your every step, your every meeting, your every apparent coincidence has been arranged by a wisdom greater than your reasoning mind could ever comprehend. The same force that guides the stars in their orbits, that pulls the tides in perfect rhythm, guides your affairs when you yield to its voice. It is the divine mind within you, mapping every movement, shaping every outcome. And the spoken word, when united with this inner direction, becomes irresistible in its power. This is why I have always said that intuition is the magic path. It shortens time. It knows the perfect way and the perfect moment. When you speak your word but resist your intuition, you scatter your forces. But when you speak your word and then follow the whisper of intuition, you align yourself with the infinite current, and life carries you like a leaf on a river, gently, swiftly, without strain. I learned this through many demonstrations. There was a time when I too would declare prosperity and then hurry into action, trying to make it happen through my own effort. The results were small and tiring. But when I began to wait for the inner nudge, that subtle, unmistakable impulse that feels like peace wrapped in excitement, doors opened without knocking. The call would come, the opportunity would appear, the right person would cross my path, and I would marvel at how perfectly the law arranged itself when I trusted the invisible guidance. One afternoon, I received a letter from a woman who was facing eviction. She had no family nearby and very little money. She wrote, "I have said the words, I have prayed, but I hear nothing. It is silent her. It is never silent. The silence you hear is the law arranging your path. Speak your word once, then be still. The whisper will come." 2 days later, she felt a sudden urge to visit a small shop she rarely entered. There she met a former student who, upon hearing her story, offered her a room in her own home until she found her footing. Within weeks, that temporary home led to a permanent position and steady income. "I did nothing," she said. "It just unfolded." I told her, "You did everything. You obeyed the whisper." Intuition is the bridge between the spoken word and its manifestation. It is the messenger that carries the decree of faith into the machinery of the unseen. When you ignore it, you delay your good. When you follow it, you accelerate it. But to hear it, the mind must be quiet. Fear makes noise. Worry clutters the channel. That is why stillness is not luxury but necessity. Each morning before the world's voices rise, sit in silence and say, "Infinite intelligence, I am listening." Do not strain to hear. Simply rest in the knowing that you are heard. In that calm, intuition begins to speak through feeling, through sudden clarity, through the gentle pull that says this way. It will never argue or plead. It will never push through confusion. It waits until you are ready to obey, and then it guides you with perfect precision. I remember once desiring to publish a new set of lessons. I spoke my word for the timing and perfect opportunity. Then I waited for weeks. Nothing moved, and the human mind began to whisper, "You must act." But I knew better than to act from anxiety. I held my peace, repeating, "Infinite Spirit, reveal the way." One morning, without plan or effort, I felt a quiet thought write to the very person who once refused your last manuscript. It seemed unreasonable, even foolish. Yet the feeling carried the unmistakable weight of truth. I obeyed. The reply came within days. That same publisher who had once declined my work had been searching for a book exactly on the subject I had written. What had changed? Only vibration. My earlier request was mixed with doubt. My later word was pure. Intuition waited for that purity before opening the door. And that is what it does. It waits until our vibration is clear enough to carry the word without distortion. When the heart is clouded by worry, intuition seems silent. But the moment peace returns, its direction is immediate. So if you ever feel disconnected from guidance, do not chase answers. Restore calm. Speak peace first and the path will speak second. Say, "Infinite Spirit, I am calm and therefore I see clearly." You will find that the answer was never absent. Only your attention was noisy. Some say, "I fear I will mistake imagination for intuition." I tell them, the difference is simple. Imagination argues. Intuition knows. Imagination pushes. Intuition invites. Imagination is urgent. Intuition is serene. The vibration of truth is unmistakable once you have felt it. It carries no anxiety, only assurance. You may feel it as a sudden clarity, as if a fog lifted, or as a warm certainty in the chest that requires no reason. When you act from that feeling, the results are always harmonious. Even if appearances seem uncertain at first, the final outcome proves perfect. Once a man I knew desired to sell his property. He had spoken the word for right buyer, right time, right price. But weeks passed with no movement. He grew impatient and was ready to accept a poor offer. "Wait," I told him, "until you feel peace." He sighed, for he thought peace meant delay. But that very night he dreamt of a number a price higher than he had imagined. He awoke with the sense that this was his answer. The next day, an unexpected buyer appeared, offered that exact amount. That is intuition, precise, unemotional, divinely timed. The beauty of this law is that it requires no struggle. Once you learn to trust your inner direction, every path unfolds like stepping stones appearing just as your foot descends. You may not see the whole way ahead, but each next step reveals itself in perfect order. And you will find that this rhythm governs every aspect of your life. You speak the word. Intuition directs the movement and manifestation follows. The process is simple but sacred. Speak, listen, obey, receive. As this practice deepens, you will find that the voice of intuition grows stronger than the voice of fear. And soon you will no longer question it. It will become your constant companion, the angel of divine intelligence, walking beside you through every decision. You will consult it about all things, not only great matters of career and destiny, but the small details of daily life. You will feel when to speak and when to stay silent, when to move and when to be still, when to give and when to wait. The world will call it coincidence, but you will know it as communion, the continuous dialogue between you and the infinite. In this state, every spoken word becomes guided speech. You no longer throw affirmations into the air like arrows without aim. You release them as precise commands directed by divine intelligence, each finding its perfect target. The results become swift, sure, graceful. Life, once a series of obstacles, becomes a series of unfoldings, and you will marvel that you ever doubted. For now you see that the unseen is more exact, more orderly, more faithful than any plan of man. So I say to you, listen more often than you speak. But when you do speak, let your word come from that listening. Let it rise from stillness, not from need. Let it carry the fragrance of peace, not the odor of panic. Let it be so aligned with divine guidance that even before you utter it, you feel the quiet certainty of completion. For that is the true power of the word guided by intuition. It does not merely command, it completes. It does not reach, it realizes. As we move forward, I will show you how this harmony between speech and intuition becomes the master key to prosperity itself. How divine intelligence not only guides your words, but arranges every circumstance to fulfill them. But remember this truth before we step further. When you listen to intuition, you are listening to God. And when you speak from that voice, your words become law in the universe. There comes a point in this sacred practice where you realize that life has ceased to be something that happens to you and has become something that happens through you. That the word and the intuition have blended so completely that you no longer feel the separation between thought and fulfillment, cause and effect, desire and possession. It is as though an invisible current carries you from one perfect event to the next. And each moment, each meeting, each gesture is imbued with meaning. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, hearing the right words, and making the right decisions. And there is no strain in it. No sense of calculation, only grace as natural as breathing. This is the state of conscious union with divine law. The state I have called walking the magic path. It is the path that begins where resistance ends, and its road is paved not with effort, but with expectancy. Expectancy is the invisible magnet of manifestation. It is the calm assurance that what you have spoken is already preparing itself to appear. It is not hope which still trembles between doubt and belief, but quiet certainty. Expectancy is the feeling of standing at the edge of Dawn knowing the sun will rise, even though the horizon is still dark. It is that inner relaxation that says it is done while appearances are still arranging themselves to prove it. When you cultivate this vibration, you will see that every word you have spoken in faith is a seed germinating under the soil of time, and that the first signs of growth often come when you least expect them. I have seen people reach this level of awareness and watch their lives blossom like gardens after rain. They no longer chase opportunity because opportunity circles them like bees around flowers. They no longer fight against conditions because conditions obey them. They no longer live by reaction because they have learned to live by creation. Their entire atmosphere changes. Even those around them feel the peace and the abundance that radiate from their presence. You see, one who walks in expectancy becomes a living prayer. A walking affirmance is powerful because their inner tone is harmonious. Even their smallest gesture carries the vibration of success. I remember one woman who once told me, "I feel invisible in this world. No one notices me. Every door stays closed." I said to her, "You have made yourself invisible by your words. You have decreed, 'No one sees me,' and the world faithful servant that it is has obeyed." I taught her to change her decree. I am seen, I am recognized, I am valued, and divine favor goes before me. She began to speak it softly every morning before she left her home. Within days, she told me that strangers had begun smiling at her, that people in shops seemed suddenly warm, that invitations came from unexpected places. "It's as if the whole city woke up and noticed me," she said. I told her, "No, my dear. It is you who have awakened, and the city is reflecting your awakening." For every change within, without, and the universe never fails to mirror the tone of your being. This law of expectancy also governs prosperity. Most people block their own supply, not because they doubt the law itself, but because they expect delay. They expect struggle. They expect the long road when they could walk the direct one. But when you speak your word, and then act as though it were already fulfilled, the outer world bends itself to match your faith. The mind may whisper, "What if it doesn't happen?" But you must answer, "It has already happened in divine mind. I am only walking toward its visible expression." In this state, you will find that you are guided to act at precisely the right moment. Not a second too soon. Not a moment too late. Every door you need opens before you. Every opportunity arrives when you are ready to meet it. The timing is immaculate because it is divine. I have experienced this again and again. Once I desired to hold a public lecture at a certain hall, but the cost seemed beyond reach. I spoke my word. Infinite Spirit opened the way for this lecture. Provide the place and the means under grace in perfect ways. Then I released it and refused to worry. Days passed, and one afternoon, while walking without purpose, I felt a quiet pull to turn down a street I rarely visited. There I met an acquaintance who mentioned that she managed a small hall nearby and needed a speaker to fill a date that had just been canceled. Not only was the hall perfect, but the arrangement was such that all expenses were covered by ticket proceeds. That is the elegance of divine law. It provides without friction. It unfolds through harmony, and it always appears natural, though nothing about it is ordinary. This harmony extends beyond material needs. It touches health, relationships, purpose, and peace. When you expect harmony, the body responds. When you expect love, companionship appears. When you expect guidance, the mind clears and the next step is revealed. Everything answers to your expectation, because expectation is faith in motion. If you expect disappointment, disappointment comes faithfully. If you expect miracles, miracles multiply. The universe cannot choose for you. It can only echo you, so let your echo be glorious. Speak, think, and expect only that which reflects divine perfection. And when appearances contradict you, as they sometimes will, for the old patterns must dissolve before the new can fully take hold. Hold your ground in expectancy. Do not wrestle with shadows. When the storm rages, say quietly, I know that this is the wind that clears the air. I know that calm follows every storm. I expect good, and good comes swiftly. Such steadfast peace dissolves opposition faster than any outward action could. It is the vibration of mastery, and mastery is silent authority. At this stage of understanding, words themselves become fewer but infinitely more powerful. You speak less, but every sentence carries the force of creation. You no longer need to repeat affirmations endlessly, because one word spoken in perfect faith accomplishes more than 1,000 spoken in doubt. Your speech becomes measured, your tone serene, your declarations absolute. The law hears certainty more clearly than it hears repetition. This is the maturity of the soul that has learned its own power. The stage where you realize that you are not appealing to the divine, but expressing it. And so, as I bring you further into this understanding, remember that faith, speech, and intuition are not three separate things, but three expressions of one truth: the realization of divine union. Faith believes, speech declares, intuition directs, and together they form the perfect triangle of manifestation. When you live in this triune awareness, you will discover that every aspect of life responds as one organism, flowing with a precision and kindness that defies logic. You will cease to question whether God hears you, for you will know that God speaks through you. You will no longer fear tomorrow, for you will realize that tomorrow is already pleaded in divine mind and only awaits your recognition. This is the true secret of abundance. Not labor, not possession, but recognition. Recognition that the supply you seek is already within you, waiting for your permission to flow outward. Recognition that every word you speak is the divine self, acknowledging itself in form. Recognition that you are never separate from your good, only asleep to it. And once you awaken, the dream of struggle dissolves and life stands revealed in its native beauty, whole, effortless, radiant. In the coming movement of this teaching, I will lead you into the highest expression of this law, the mastery of prosperity, where the spoken word, guided by intuition and sustained by expectancy, creates an unbroken rhythm of abundance and peace. But before we enter that sacred chamber, take this truth into your heart. Your faith is the blueprint, your word is the command, your intuition is the architect, and your expectancy is the completion of the design. Now we come to that portion of the teaching where the unseen truth of prosperity becomes visible, where all that you have declared, felt, and quietly obeyed begins to translate itself into the language of material experience. For prosperity, as I have said countless times, is not a reward. It is a revelation. It is not something granted to the few. It is the birthright of all who remember their divine inheritance. It exists as an atmosphere, not an accident. A vibration that surrounds those who know that their supply is God and God never withholds himself. You do not chase prosperity, you unveil it. You do not earn it, you allow it. When I speak of abundance, I do not mean piles of gold or mountains of possessions, though too included when rightly understood. I mean the steady rhythm of sufficiency, the quiet knowing that every need is met before it is spoken, that every desire of the heart, once purified by faith, is already fulfilled in the invisible. When this consciousness is established, fear dies of starvation, and life becomes a continuum of giving and receiving, a sacred commerce between the seen and the unseen. There is a reason Jesus said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." He did not say chase after things, and perhaps you will stumble upon peace. He reversed the order of the world's teaching. For the world says to secure wealth first and find faith later. But divine law says that faith itself is the substance of wealth. When you align with this principle, your outer affairs begin to reflect your inner peace. Money ceases to be a master and becomes a servant. You no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" But is this in divine order? And when the answer is yes, you act in faith, knowing the supply will appear at the appointed hour. I recall a man who came to me during the depths of despair. He had lost his employment and believed himself ruined. His speech was filled with words of defeat. "I am finished. I am trapped. There is no way out." I told him, "You are weaving a prison with your own tongue." I gave him a new declaration. There is a way out. Infinite Spirit opens the way for my perfect work. I am divinely guided to my right position. He repeated it daily, not feverishly but calmly with gratitude. Weeks passed, and though nothing seemed to change outwardly, his inner tone softened. He stopped lamenting and began blessing others. Then one morning, while reading the newspaper, his eye fell upon a small notice of a position that seemed beneath his former status. Yet intuition whispered, "This way." He obeyed, and through that humble beginning came a path that led to greater prosperity than he had ever known. The law had simply waited for his speech to harmonize with faith. This is the eternal pattern. The word goes forth, faith sustains it, intuition directs it, when ingratitude completes it. When any one of these elements is missing, the current falters. But when all four work as one, the results are certain. Prosperity, health, harmony, love, they all operate under the same rhythm. You are not learning four different laws. You are learning one law applied in four directions. The law of divine supply is impartial. It knows no favorites. It will fill the cup that is held out to it, whether that cup be large or small. So I say to you, do not ask for a trickle when you are heir to a river. Do not speak timidly of just enough to get by. Speak largely, for the infinite does not measure cost. It measures faith. Once a woman asked me to help her sell her home, which had lingered on the market for months. I told her, "You are holding on to it mentally, and you cannot release what you fear to lose." She admitted that she had secretly been saying, "I'll never get what it's worth." I said, "Then that is the law you've written. Rewrite it now." We declared together. This property now sells to the right buyer at the right price. Under grace, in a perfect way, she thanked the house for its service and blessed the new owner in advance. Within days, a buyer appeared, offering the exact price she had once considered impossible. Gratitude released what fear had bound. You see, gratitude is the golden oil that keeps the machinery of abundance turning. Without it, even the most correct affirmations can grind to a halt. For ingratitude closes the heart, and the closed heart cannot receive. Gratitude opens every gate. Each time you give thanks, you align with the source of all supply. You say silently to the universe, "I trust you." And the universe, hearing its own name, echoed in your voice, pours forth its blessings without limit. I have watched lives transform entirely through gratitude alone. People who once counted debts began to count blessings, and the debts dissolved. People who once complained of lack began to bless the smallest coin in their hand, and those coins multiplied like seeds in fertile soil. Bless what you have and it will bless you back. The law of giving and receiving is another rhythm of this same divine current. You cannot hold tightly to your good and expect it to expand. To cling is to contract. To release is to receive. That is why tithing, not as superstition, but as acknowledgement, holds such power. When you give freely, you declare to the universe, "I trust in infinite supply." The act of giving cuts the cords of fear. It tells the subconscious that loss is impossible, that there is always more where that came from, and so more must come. One of my students once asked, "But what if I give and have nothing left?" I said, "Then you have nothing left to fear." She laughed, but later she told me that after giving a small amount in faith, unexpected income arrived. The next day. It is always so. The law cannot help but multiply what is released in love. Now understand this well. Abundance is not greed. It is gratitude made visible. There is no holiness in poverty. For lack is not God's will but man's forgetfulness. The divine idea is plenty, beauty, expansion, joy. To deny yourself these is to deny the life that breathes through you. You are meant to express prosperity, not as excess but as evidence of divine order. When your consciousness is rich, your world will reflect richness, but it will never overflow into waste or pride, because true abundance is always balanced by humility. The prosperous soul gives as easily as it receives, for it knows both are the same act seen from opposite sides. And so I tell you, begin to live, now as though your supply were already endless, because it is. Do not wait for outer evidence. Begin to act, dress, speak, and think from the consciousness of abundance. You are not pretending. You are preparing. You are aligning your vibration with this that has always been. If your surroundings seem small, bless them and know they are expanding, even as you give thanks. If your purse feels light, bless it and call it full. If your opportunities seem few, bless them and watch them multiply. Every blessing is a command to the invisible substance to take form, and it never fails to obey. When you understand this, you will realize that wealth is not a matter of accumulation, but of circulation. The air you breathe out returns to you as fresh air. The water that leaves the river returns as rain. The same is true of money, ideas, love, and all good things. The miser who clutches his coin breaks the circuit and wonders why poverty follows him. The generous soul who gives with joy keeps the circuit alive and wonders why he never lacks. It is the same law in both cases. Obeying the consciousness behind the act. The universe does not care about the form of giving. It cares about the feeling. Give with joy, and you have given from divinity itself. So I say to you, live now as the embodiment of divine plenty. Speak it until you feel it. Act it until you know it. Bless it until you see it. Every time you use your word with faith, every time you follow intuition with obedience, every time you give with gratitude, you are writing your name upon the scroll of divine abundance. And what is written there can never be erased. The outer world may shift, economies may rise and fall, but the law of supply remains immutable because it is anchored in eternity. You are that eternity made visible. In the next and final movement of this relation, we shall rise to the summit of this truth. The mastery of self-expression, where the individual, having learned to speak rightly, give freely, and live peacefully, becomes a living instrument of the divine, channeling abundance not only for themselves, but for the healing and uplifting of all. But before we ascend, hold fast to this eternal promise. There is no lack in the mind of God, and you are one with that mind. Therefore, there can be no lack in you. Speak it, believe it, and live it. And your life will become the proof that heaven and earth are one. When a man or woman reaches the understanding that their every word, their every feeling, their every act of faith is a note in the divine symphony of creation, they cease to live as beggars of fate and begin to live as conductors of the infinite orchestra. At that height of realization, prosperity ceases to be a goal and becomes a condor's natural state. Health ceases to be pursued and becomes the radiant overflow of inner harmony. And love ceases to be sought and becomes the fragrance of the soul's own fullness. It is then that life reveals its true nature, not a battlefield of opposing forces, but a living poem written in the rhythm of divine order. You begin to see that every apparent delay, every detour, Every denial was never punishment but preparation, a means by which the law perfected your vibration until you were ready to receive your own word made flesh. For nothing is withheld, nothing denied. There is only divine timing, the perfect intersection between faith and form, between heaven and earth. In this awareness, the mind grows quiet and the heart expands into a stillness that is anything but passive. It is an alert peace alive with the hum of creative energy, a peace that carries within it the power to move worlds. You become fearless in this peace, for fear cannot breathe where faith is absolute. You no longer worry about outcomes, because you have seen the pattern that every outcome is only the echo of your last word. And because your words are now aligned with love, the echoes that return are melodies of blessing. You see this in every area of life. You may speak gently to an illness and watch the body rise in response. For the body is an obedient servant of consciousness. You may bless an empty bank account and watch it fill, not by miracle but by law, for the outer form must obey the inner decree. You may forgive an enemy and feel the weight of years lift instantly. Because forgiveness is the most powerful word a soul can speak. It breaks the pattern of resistance and sets both giver and receiver free. Forgiveness indeed is the master key of abundance. Until you release resentment, you cannot receive reward. The two cannot occupy the same space. Resentment says, I was wronged, while abundance says, all is well. And the law, impartial as ever, answers the tone it hears. If you wish to open the floodgates of prosperity, begin by forgiving. Forgive quickly. Forgive completely. Forgive silently. Do not wait for apology or understanding. Simply say, I forgive everyone and everyone forgives me. All doors of abundance now open wide. These are not mere words. They are the unlocking of a spiritual circuit that has been blocked by bitterness. The moment you forgive, the current of life rushes back through you. People may change. Circumstances may reorder themselves. Money long delayed may begin to flow, all because the divine current is no longer obstructed. I have witnessed this too often to doubt it. A woman once told me that after years of struggle, her affairs turned suddenly to prosperity. The very week she forgave her sister, she had changed nothing else. No new affirmations, no new plans, only forgiveness. That act of release was the unseen dam breaking, and her life flooded with new good. You see, the soul cannot hold fear or anger and still vibrate with abundance. The two are opposite currents. When you speak with love, you harmonize with the source of all supply. When you speak with anger, you fall out of tune and the music stops. So the true prosperity is not merely to have money, but to live so attuned to love many and health, and all forms of good come and go with ease, like waves on the sea, never feared, never clutched, never resisted. That is the mastery of the spoken self, to remain poised in every tide blessing, every appearance as good in disguise, declaring every change to be divine adjustment, knowing that you are the center of peace in a whirling world. Once you reach this mastery, you begin to see abundance everywhere. You see it in the sunrise that paints the sky with inexhaustible color. You see it in the river that gives without asking, in the air that never runs out of breath, in the earth that never tires of growing. You realize that the whole universe is the body of God expressing itself as endless generosity. How could you, who are made of that same substance, ever believe yourself separate from it? Lack is not reality. It is forgetfulness. Every time you speak lack, you forget who you are. Every time you speak abundance, you remember. This is why I say that the spoken word is not just a tool. It is a remembrance. It calls the sleeping God within you to awaken and to take its rightful place as master of form. And when the God within awakens, even your silence becomes creative. The need to affirm endlessly falls away because your very being radiates affirmation. The words that do pass your lips are simple and sure. Thank you. I bless this. All is well. These are not phrases. They are living vibrations that heal and harmonize wherever they are heard. You will notice people drawn to you without knowing why. Animals growing calm in your presence. Difficulties dissolving before you arrive. That is the silent authority of a soul in alignment with its source. It is not arrogance but transparency. The ego has stepped aside and divine power shined through unfiltered. At this point I must speak of rest, for rest is the crown of all demonstration. True rest is not inactivity but complete trust. It is the awareness that the universe is self-sustaining and that your good cannot be lost or delayed. To rest is to stand still in faith while the outer world rearranges itself in obedience to your word. Many think that constant activity proves faith, but it often proves doubt. The one who trusts can rest because they know the law is infallible. They do not dig up the seed to see if it grows. They let the invisible forces of life perform their perfect work. Rest, therefore, is the highest form of affirmation. To say I rest in divine order is to declare that the work is done. The manifestation assured as you live this way. You find that every day brings its own demonstration of divine precision. You think of someone and they call. You need a thing and it appears. You take a step and the ground is there to meet you. The mind calls this coincidence, but the soul knows it as synchronicity. The seamless weaving of divine intention through all details of life. It is the evidence of your union with the infinite, and the more you notice it, the more it multiplies. For attention is the currency of creation. What you praise expands and what you ignore withers. So praise everything. Praise the rising sun and the setting moon. Praise the check that arrives and the one delayed. Praise the friend who comforts you, and even the stranger who challenges you. For all are instruments of your unfolding good. Finally, understand this. The mastery of life is not reached through possession, but through perception. The wise soul knows that wealth is not measured by what it holds but by what it sees. The awakened heart looks upon the world and sees only abundance because it sees only God. Every face is a blessing, every situation a sermon, every breath a benediction. You are not walking toward abundance. You are walking in it, through it, as it. The air you breathe is supply. The love you feel is supply. The very power that animates your word is supply. Nothing can add to it and nothing can take from it. So I bid you now to speak gently to life, to treat it as the holy companion it has always been. Speak to your affairs as to beloved children. Guide them, bless them, and let them grow. Speak to your heart as to an old friend. Thank it for its faithfulness. Speak to your future as to a loyal servant. Command it with kindness, and it will obey. And when you have spoken, rest known that your word has gone forth clothed in divine authority, and cannot return empty. For the universe is your echo, and when you speak with love, it answers with miracles. Hold this truth in your spirit. You are the word made flesh, and every corner of your world is listening for your next sentence. Speak light, speak peace, speak plenty, and the world will answer in kind. The square of life, as I have so often taught, is made up of 4 corners: health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And when one corner is out of balance, the whole structure trembles. Each side supports and mirrors the others. And the soul's task in this incarnation is not to perfect one and neglect the rest, but to bring harmony to the entire square, until it glows like a window of stained glass, through which divine light pours without obstruction. Many imagine that if they can only secure the corner of money, the rest will follow. But wealth without love is a cold echo, and wealth without health is a gilded cage, and wealth without self-expression is a silent symphony that never plays. Each side of the square must be blessed, nourished, and declared whole. Only then does life become steady underfoot, a foundation that does not shake when appearances move. I have known people who prayed endlessly for healing while cursing their work, or who sought prosperity while nursing resentment, and they wondered why their progress limped instead of running. It is because the law cannot move freely through contradiction. The same divine current must flow through every channel, through the body, through the purse, through the heart, through the mind. You cannot affirm life in one breath and speak death in another. You cannot bless your health and criticize your neighbor and expect peace. So I tell my students, take each corner of your square and speak to as you would to a beloved child, tenderly, consistently, and without fear. To the corner of health, say, divine life fills every cell of my being. I am radiant, strong, renewed. To the corner of wealth, say, God is my supply and my instant, constant. To the abundant provision, say, I am one with divine love, and that love now draws to me my own. And to the corner of perfect self-expression, say, the divine plan of my life now unfolds in perfect ways. What is mine cannot be taken. What is not mine cannot stay. Each of these declarations is a pillar holding up the temple of the soul. You will find as you affirm them daily that your outer world begins to rearrange itself. Health improves because harmony replaces resistance. Finances flow because you have ceased to speak limitation. Relationships soften because love has replaced pride, and opportunities unfold because you have aligned with your rightful purpose. You will feel as though invisible architects are working around you, restoring the symmetry of your life, squaring every corner, straightening every line. It is not that the universe suddenly notices you. It is that you have finally become still enough to notice the universe. Perfect self. Expression is often the most neglected side of the square. People tend to accept the work that is offered rather than the work that is ordained. They follow habit instead of a heart's quiet directive. And in doing so, they silence the song they came to sing. Yet every soul has a melody written within it, a line of music that no other can play. To discover it, you must dare to ask, what would I do if I were unafraid? Then listen. The answer may come as a faint glimmer at first, a sudden joy when you imagine a certain act, a restlessness when you imagine its absence. Follow that joy. It is God whispering through desire. To suppress it is to deny your divinity. To express it is to serve creation itself. The world does not need your imitation of another's gift. It needs your obedience to your own. There is a beautiful rhythm to life when all four sides of the square are balanced. Health feeds vitality into purpose. Purpose attracts supply. Supply provides means for giving. Giving expands love. Love renews health. The circle becomes complete and self-sustaining. You no longer chase any single aspect, because each nourishes the other. You live in what I call the law of circulation, the great divine heartbeat that moves through all existence. When one side falters, do not despair. Simply strengthen it with your word. Speak harmony into it, and the rest will follow. The law responds not to worry but to recognition. Recognize your wholeness even while a corner trembles, and the trembling will cease. I recall a woman who once came to me lamenting that she had health but no wealth, friends but no purpose. She said, I am thankful yet incomplete. I told her, your gratitude is the key. Use it in every direction. Bless your body for its strength, your friendships for their sweetness, and bless your future for its unfolding. She began to do so. Each morning she blessed the corner of wealth, though her purse was empty. And each evening she blessed the corner of self-expression, though she did not yet know her calling. Within 3 months, she had been invited to teach a craft she loved, a simple art that delighted her, and brought her unexpected income. She came to me radiant, saying, "All I did was bless." I smiled, for that is all any of us ever need to do. When you feel that all four sides are aligned, a wonderful calm overtakes you. You realize that there is no need to struggle for balance. You are balance. Life no longer swings between extremes because you stand at the center, the unshakable point where heaven and earth meet. From that center, every word you speak radiates power equally in all directions. Your speech heals as naturally as it blesses, and reaches as naturally as it comforts. You have become the embodiment of divine order, the living geometry of God's perfection, expressed through a human form. This is the goal toward which all the previous lessons have led. To speak as the Christ within, to act from the now, to walk in fearless trust, and to live within the perfect square of being. When you have reached this state, you find that there is nothing left to chase and everything left to give. You become the quiet teacher of abundance simply by your presence. Others look to you and feel peace without knowing why. That peace is your true prosperity, for it can never be taxed, lost, or stolen. It is the eternal wealth that multiplies every good thing you touch. So now, as we prepare to close this great circle of teaching, pause and breathe the truth of it into your heart. You are whole. You are supplied. You are loved. And you are perfectly expressing the divine plan of your life. Say it aloud, not as hope, but as revelation. Let the vibration of it fill the room. Let it pass through the walls. Let it ripple through the unseen substance that surrounds you. Every particle of creation waits to echo your certainty. Speak as one who knows. You are the completed square, the perfect balance of heaven's design, and every side of your life shines with divine order. You have learned the secret of speech, the word that commands wealth, the faith that dissolves fear, and the love that opens every gate. You now know how to talk to money, to life, and to the unseen power as a friend. Every word you speak is a seed of destiny. I now speak my word with power. My supply is endless. My faith unshaken, my path clear. What is mine by divine right now appears under grace in perfect ways.